Okay? China invited Iranian Foreign Minister Araghchi to Beijing because China is very interested in the outcome of this war between the United States and Iran. Right now, Iran is blocking the Strait of Hormuz, and China depends on 50 to 60% of its energy needs from the Middle East. Okay? Jie Huang was not on the China list. Okay? So before Trump took off, it was announced that Jie Huang, who is the head of NVIDIA, would not come to China. And this is a very big deal because in this grand bargain, what China would want is access to NVIDIA chips, semiconductors, in order to fuel its AI. Okay? The United States and 6 other nations had a war game in the Philippines, and China sent 28 warships, okay? Trump sent Iran an MOU. Iran made modifications, and Trump said no, okay? So it seems like the war will only increase in the Middle East. After Iran had responded, China announced Trump's state of visit, and then yesterday and the day before, He Lifeng, who is a vice premier in China, and Scott Bessent, who's a Treasury Secretary, met in South Korea to try to negotiate a deal. Okay, and then what's going to happen is that Putin will visit China after Trump leaves. So if you just look at what's happening, it seems as though there's still a lot of friction between the United States and China. What I want to show you today is that all this you can just ignore, okay? This is all that's happening right now. But if we use game theory, if we just look at the broad contours of what's happening, we would make much better predictions as to what will happen, okay? So all this, I think, is just theater. All right? China and the United States are not actually fighting an AI war. It's all theater. They're actually working together to promote AI. These sanctions are happening, but eventually the US and China will come to a grand bargain and they will become much more economically integrated. And Iran, China doesn't really care about Iran. Okay? China cares first and foremost about the relationship with the United States. And one piece of evidence for that is that when Foreign Minister Araghchi went to Moscow, Putin met with him for 90 minutes. And Putin expressed his sympathy and support to the Iranian people. When Araghchi came to Beijing, he only met with his counterpart, the Foreign Minister Wang Yi. Okay? All right. Another important thing is that Scott Bessent is the one who is leading the US team in China. Scott Bessent is the Treasury Secretary. This goes against protocol because it's usually the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, and the National Security Advisor, who also happens to be Marco Rubio. This team is the one that sets the agenda for the US-China visit. Because it's Scott Bessent, we can probably guess that this is probably going to be an economic negotiation. And the focus will be on finance.